intro is always the hardest part. Like, it's just getting started, right? That's always the hardest part. So, guys, talking about getting started, welcome back to another episode of Always Making. We are joined in the studio by another talented artist, Wednesday Ann, Melissa, creator of Wednesday Ann, let's put it the correct way. Does really cool stuff, has been doing it for quite a while. We're going to get into that whole conversation here, but let's do some housekeeping before we do. Like, comment, subscribe, do all those things there. We have a guest on the next episode that's coming out after this one here airs, that is going to be putting on an event with his junior program on November 8th. So if you're listening to this, his episode does come out on November 8th. So I'm just giving you guys a early advance preview of that episode. We are going to be at DIY Craft Holiday Market. I'm missing the
Craft Lake City.
Thank you.
Holiday Market.
That one.
Not DIY Fest.
On December 6th and 7th. So that's we just got accepted into that one. That's at the Union Station.
Ogden.
Yes. And that is everything as of right now. Okay. So cool. That's the housekeeping, guys. Melissa, thank you for joining us here in the episode today.
Thanks for having me. You did all of that off the top of your head. I don't know how you remembered it all.
I before you got here, I practiced like for an hour in my office.
He did not. He did not. Otherwise, I hope it would have gone better.
So we have a frog with a butt.
The cutest little butt cheeks.
But you are a very talented illustrator, felt artist, jewelry maker. You do quite a bit of stuff. When did it all get started for you?
Well, when I was born, oh no. I don't know. I've always been one of those people that's always making and always got the giant art set for Christmas.
Yep.
It's a rite of passage and they suck.
Yep.
And
worst art supplies ever. Worst crayons, worst markers.
Probably right around 2007 is when I started applying to markets and stuff, and I did a couple things. I made wallets first, and then I did clay before it like blew up. I didn't do what people do now, not a lot of jewelry, but I would make like little animals and things.
Cute.
And then I took a long hiatus, sort of forced hiatus, and then I had to find something where I could carry it with me because I had a son and like medical stuff and things, and I had to find something new where I could like it could move with me and I didn't have to hide away in a studio. So then needle felting came into play.
So all of that now felting.
Yeah.
So for people who aren't familiar with you and your work, what kind of things do you make other than frogs with cute little butt cheeks?
Oh man, I don't know how to describe it. I never had to describe it in those like artist bio things you always have to fill out.
Yeah, we're terrible at that.
It's kind of it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the inside of my head. I love critters, so there's always critters involved. I am crass, so that comes into play. And I also like cute things. And so you might have a frog with a badonkadonk that is smiling at you with pierced nipples. And there we go.
That just sums it up right there. Frog with nipple rings, cute little butt.
There is a Tim Burton Over the Garden Wall kind of like horror Wednesday Addams kind of feel to it kind of thing but some
also
of
like
stuff,
cute
but cute and because I mean you do other things too. There's hedgehogs I've seen in your stuff. There's little cutesy little like abominable snowman looking creatures that you had some ornaments. So there's a bunch of variety, but the things I see a lot is your pumpkin heads. Those are very popular, it seems like. Felting, that was what, 5 years ago you started with it?
Yep.
Exactly
5 years ago.
Because it was a thing that was easier to carry with you, like But was it the first thing that you were carrying with you, or was it like just like a couple different tries of different stuff?
I think it was the first thing. I had always done things like cross stitch and embroidery and stuff, but that wasn't anything that I wanted to venture into as like making a business or anything. That's just something I'll do for myself. But I really wanted to try needle felting. I almost stalked another artist. I just approached her. I approached them. I'm sorry. I approached them at every market, and I was like, I just really love your stuff. And how do you do this? and then they told me, and then I would say, oh, I got this thing, and they would offhandedly make comments, but I would like soak it up and be like, oh, that's how they do that. Oh, that's oh, that's what's inside, and then just tried it. And I'm just one of those people that has that audacity where I think I can do anything half decent. So it's like my second or third try, and it's perfect.
I love it. I love the confidence.
So what is inside of it? Is there like an armature that
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's for again, I know felting from the cool YouTube and TikToks and Instagram videos and everything, but I think we actually have a felting needle upstairs, but I don't think I've ever pulled it out of the case.
Yeah, I think I've done it like twice. Like I forget where I was, but it was like when it was like just kind of becoming popular.
Yeah,
and
there would be like the little kits out and stuff.
Yeah, and I was in some like class or something where they were like, here, make a thing with wool felting, and we did it like once, and I was like, this hurts because I keep poking myself.
It is very stabby.
Yeah.
So my understanding of it is it's a kind of a ball of wool, right? And then or felt, and you take a needle, and that needle has little barbs on the end of it.
Yes.
And what you're doing is pressing it in and pulling it and making a shape. Now, that boggles me because the shapes you make, I don't know how you do that with it.
To be fair, I don't know how you do what you do either.
It does feel a little bit
Give
like
me a couple
wizardry.
tries though. We'll get it. So you're essentially, I describe it as you're making a dreadlock.
Okay.
Like you're getting the fibers to lock together. As you put the needle in and pull it out, it's like they keep tangling.
Okay.
And so you take your armature and you get something called core wool, which is I like to work with. Some people just like to get the colored wool and use that, but that uses up all your colors and it's more expensive.
Okay.
So you get the core wool that's just, white straight off the sheep or whatever. And you wrap it and you poke it. And then it's kind of like painting or drawing where you see you need a little more on this right side. Put a little piece there, poke it, and then it's exactly like sculpture where you do it and you keep looking at it and deciding that you need to balance the head by adding. And the nice thing that I found about it is you can take away. I have been like, this butt is crooked and just cut it off.
Wow.
And if you haven't, the best advice I got from my friend that I said that I stalked was don't make things too tight because then you can't work with it anymore. So if you keep it kind of loose and squishy, you can add and take away, and then when you feel like you're about done, you can tighten it all up.
Okay. How many needle punches does it take to do your
Thousands. I 100% don't know. It's like a second. It's like it's my sixth sense.
Yeah.
To
it's like second nature.
It's second nature. If I'm never holding still. I'm not chill. I'm not. I have to always be doing something. I'm always overstimulated, and so if I sit down and we're gonna watch a show or something, I'm doing this.
There's something going on. Yeah. Okay.
Just constantly poke, and it's
How long does it take for you to make one of your because you have multiple sizes, so like just one of your average pieces, the frog that we got. Let's just go with that. What is that?
From start to finish, I could probably do that in like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty quick.
That is almost a guess though, because I do things as an assembly line.
Okay.
Just to streamline it. So like Craft Lake City Holiday Market's coming up. I also got accepted into that.
Awesome.
When I was excited and then immediately went into panic. And I was like, oh no, I have to make things. And I have like 20 worms right now. And I'll make like 20 armatures, 20 cores, 20 color, 20 faces. And then so I if I'm guessing, I would say 3 or 4 hours if I just sat down and did that one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean that's when it comes to the manufacturing side of things for shows and stuff, that is the smartest way to really approach that, so that you can be intelligent about your pricing and like knowing that like, okay, it took me this many hours to make this many pieces and this go through the whole motions. But that's I was really expecting you to be like maybe 10, 12 hours, maybe
same.
a week or something for one.
It used to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, as you've gotten better, it's gotten quicker, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What is your favorite piece you've made so far from your felting? Because you've done so many other random things with all of it, but your felting has what's really kind of been your biggest thing as of now.
So the things that are my favorite are like the classic horror type of guys. I love Creature from the Black Lagoon, so he appears a lot. And then I recently just made a wolf head. I was like, it's Wolfman, and I like kind of wanted to keep it, but you're also like, I can make another one for myself.
We know that feeling. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the stuff that I lean towards.
Okay, so the classic horror. Reason why we have you here during the spooky season as well, because it's very horror themed on your stuff. Yeah, guys, right now, if you guys are watching our episode in October, we've been doing spooky season episodes. So if you didn't understand the theming of why we did this all behind us, if you guys are watching the episode, if you guys aren't watching, the audio listeners out there, there's pumpkins and spider webs and everything else, and our last few guests have been spooky season themed. But
I also Wednesday is from Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, so with that, I didn't want to 100% make that connection, but I mean, I was going to ask. So
adjacent. Wednesday is my dog's name.
Yeah.
And she's almost 12, and I named her after Wednesday Addams because she's a little black dog, and I was like, what matches this with Wednesday? Because that's just Halloween's part of my personality and all that old horror stuff, and so when I was working on branding with someone who does that professionally, and they were like, what do you want your shop name to be? And because I dabble so much, I'm like, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into one kind of thing. I was like, designs by Melissa, and they were like, no. And I was like, oh, I just thought that made it broad, and they were like, take something you love and like part of your name, and I was like, Wednesday Ann.
And then it was born,
and here we are.
And we've been going by Wednesday Ann for 5 years as well. Okay, when did it actually all start though? Because you took that little like hiatus, but like we're talking what, 2008, 2009? Is that when you kind of first
started doing like markets and stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, what was my old shop was called Your Doll Narwhal.
Okay.
I just made it up.
That's
it doesn't
fun.
mean anything besides I made narwhals all the time. Do you remember those years where narwhals were very popular and very Reddit-y and stuff? Yeah, it was during that time. So I made up that name, and I made clay jewelry all the time. They also had armatures, and I would make all kinds of critters, kind of like I do now, but there weren't the butts or anything. I was trying to fit into like a box, where you're like, what do people want?
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. And I think when you do that, you also burn out on it. And that happened.
That's fair.
Because you've been doing it for so long and kind of had that hiatus in between, what are some of the differences you've seen from like when you first did a few shows to when you're doing shows now? So I guess the question first is, when did you get back into doing markets? Was that 5 years ago, or has it been more recent?
It actually has been more recent.
Okay.
It was like 1 year ago.
Oh, okay.
One and a half.
Okay, so you've been building up the collection of felt
Yeah.
and going through all the style, getting your stuff worked out. A year ago, you decided, hey, I'm going to get back into markets.
Yes.
What was that difference that you from when you first started to where you're at now?
It was a little scary because, the people in the scene, and then you step out from it and you come back and it's totally new people. So I had actually moved up north. I used to live in West Valley.
Yeah.
Well, not to dox you. And I moved up north. I live in Clinton, and there was nothing up north.
Yeah.
There were no markets, and then like one appeared, and I don't know if you know Audrey started it in her backyard, the yard sale.
Yes.
Yeah. And I went to shop at it, and it was immediately like, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
I found my people. Like,
Yeah.
because I moved up there and I was like, what is this place? Like,
Felt like a foreigner in your
I
own
felt
country.
like a
Yeah.
foreigner in Davis County. Yeah. And so the following season I applied, and then from there I made a couple friends, and then they're like, you should apply to this market. And then I did that again, and then it's like, you should apply to this market. And now I just do all kinds of them, and I'm really happy to be back in it. And I feel like this time around, since I'm just like making what comes to me and what I like, and it's just very authentic, and it's kind of weird, and but it's really well received, and I'm having a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yay. That's how it should be.
So you're very, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're very eager to get to the next market and have that fun.
I am. I actually applied to a market that's tomorrow. Well, no, I didn't apply to a market tomorrow, and I wish that I did, because I tried to be like, no, I'm doing too much. I need to manage my life. I can't.
Work-life balance.
I
Right?
told you before we started that I don't have work-life balance, and that my life at home falls apart. It doesn't fall apart. We're not like a hoarders or anything, but it's just, I feel like we're like a car that goes putt putt ding.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I manage my house.
Yeah. The focus has to change each week.
The focus changes.
And so we run.
We're
this,
living that right now.
We do that every week. It's like, oh, we have a show this week. Cool. We're not cleaning the house.
Yeah.
We'll like do the cleaning next week once we get all the stuff done.
It's like, we'll have food to eat and you'll have clothes to wear, but it's gonna be from McDonald's, and
the socks might not.
We're gonna
match.
just smell them and make sure they pass the smell
Socks might
test.
not
They
match.
might not be.
Exactly. That's what happens. And I tried to not apply to more than one show in October to try to find work-life balance, and now I'm just upset. I'm like, I wish I was in a show tomorrow. What did I do?
I do feel like there's a bit of that like market FOMO though that happens when
Yeah.
you see like other like maker friends are like, oh, they're doing that market. I didn't know about that
Like
market.
5 of
What?
my friends are in this market tomorrow, and I'm like, without me.
Yeah. Well,
Dare they?
just last weekend we had a weekend where we didn't have any markets. We did some chores around the house, and then we're like, hey, there's a show going on today. Do we want to go out and like just say hi to people? Because like we didn't think to sign up for this one. We're like, oh, like, so like we're our own worst like enemy in that sense.
We're
like,
out of market anyways.
we're out of market anyways, kind
Yep.
of thing. And so, but it like I like to talk. I make fun about it because it's like a drug almost, where you get that high of like, cool, these people like what I do. There's all this stuff, and then there's money involved, and people are supporting me, and you meet friends, and you get that like dopamine fix of like, this is awesome, and so you're like, I want to do it again. Like,
It's my favorite place to be.
Yeah.
It's you're showing your art, which is what artists want to do, and everyone is like you.
Yeah.
You're just it's truly a place where you belong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we talk about that all the time on here, is like, when you do what you love, kind of thing, the people that like appreciate what you do will find you. Like, where you talk about doing narwhals and you kind of burnt yourself out, like, I imagine it was one of those things where you're like trying to make it into something and not just being you, kind of thing. And so we try to share as much of our experience with people who are listening and watching the episode of like, just do you.
Yeah.
Don't try to chase the trends. Don't try to chase
Yeah.
like this thing that you think is going to sell very popular kind of thing, because it might work for you for like a short time.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, like you burn yourself out.
You
And
burn yourself
like,
out. Or
I'm
the
very-
trend is over.
I'm very glad to hear that you got burnt out and still had that itch.
Yes.
And came back to it and didn't go like, oh, it's been 5 years, 6 years. I'm done with that in my life. It's like, no, I there's something about that itch that you wanted
Yeah.
to get back into it. So,
I wanted it the whole time.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. It was not available to me. It was a season of life where I couldn't do anything else.
yeah.
I guess I could explain a little.
If you want to.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
My son was born at 24 weeks. He was 1 pound 5 ounces.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he was in the hospital for 6 months.
Wow.
And then even before that, we had a pregnancy that we lost at 18 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And there was just like nothing.
Yeah.
And then like I brought him home, and like he was the only thing, and it was like feeding tubes and oxygen and stuff. And you've seen him running around. He's fine.
Yeah.
But like,
Adorable. He's
but
adorable.
it was just like that was the only thing.
Yeah.
And I would say this all the time. I would like walk into and say to my husband, I'd be like, I miss hyper focusing. And then like walk back out of the room. Just be like, I love that, like, I'm gonna do this for 3 hours, and like you put your head down and you work on your art. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So with the kid now, we've talked about this on the show as well. We now have our child that's a year old now, or gonna be a year.
Almost, yeah.
I guess, yeah, right when the episode comes out, just be about her first birthday kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we find that balance and that time, and it can be exhausting. How do you manage your time with a kid and doing what you love?
Well, part of those years was waiting for him to get older.
Okay.
It is easy having an only child, and also hard because you are the playmate
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And so I had to wait for him basically to go to preschool to like start really getting into things again.
Patience.
Yeah. Just hold on.
Don't lose hope. Is there inspiration that comes from like his like likes and wants and stuff that like kind of create some of the stuff you do? Or is it primarily all your thoughts?
It's primarily my thoughts, but I do enjoy his like how he perceives the things that I make.
Okay.
Or takes them and puts them in the dollhouse, or
Does he think what you do is very cool, or is he kind of like
he doesn't care.
Okay, that's fair.
It's just that
still young. I mean,
this will happen to you. Your kid's not gonna like craft shows.
no, she is gonna like craft shows. We are good. Like
He's like, I'm like, we have a craft show, and he's like,
she's gonna dress up in some kind of monkey suit, hold a sign, and sell the wares to pay for her time here.
Sometimes he's a character.
Yeah.
Though. Sometimes he's stood on a chair and been like, crafts for sale.
Does he enjoy the maker side of things? Have you kind of introduced him to the creative stuff, or?
I think it might be wishful thinking. I think I'm right though. I think he's creative.
Okay.
Definitely we draw together all the time. I really want to instill that in him. It's kind of it's my scheme. So we're always playing games where he tells me what to draw, and it's always some ridiculous scene, like draw a guy hanging from the ceiling that's hair's on fire, and I'm like, okay. And then like he laughs and laughs. And he's really into music too. So I think he is creative, and I think he's going to be creative, and he's not totally old enough to understand what I'm actually doing. He knows when it's done that mom made it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't know what the process or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he's always sticking his hand over, and I'm like, I'm gonna stab you. Get out of here.
Sharp needles.
Don't put your hand over here. It's dangerous.
So you brought up a thing with teaching him drawing and getting like that interaction with him there. Was the first thing that started your creative journey, was that drawing?
Yes.
Okay. And elementary school, junior high,
Just
like
always. I think that I very early on learned, I don't know if this is good or bad, that it was like a way to get attention from like my mom. Just to be
look
like,
what I could do kind of thing,
be like, I drew you this picture, and then they're like, oh, Melissa, thank you, this is so nice, and I'm like, yeah.
That's awesome, though. I mean,
that's what little kids do, right?
Yeah.
So I did that all the time.
What was the switch to go into like actual physical products? Because then like you have jewelry, you have the felting. Was there other like ceramics or any of the other like sculpting things that kind of came into play, or was it just like one day something like clicked?
They're just in school you dabble in things like there's ceramics class and stuff, and I really liked sculpting. And then I discovered like polymer, of course, because I didn't have a kiln. And then so I was like, I can sculpt that. I'm actually much better at 3D than I am at 2D.
Okay.
Especially drawing, like trying to draw something and making it have dimension. I'm not great at that. But if I can like turn it and see all the sides of it, I can do that. So then that turned into, you see things that you're interested in as an artist. I was really interested in spun cotton. So if you go halfway down my Instagram page, you'll see spun cotton. And then I saw the needle felting, and so
gave that a go.
Since it's easier for me than like painting or drawing, then it's I just look into all the forms of sculpture, and like I said, I just have that audacity that that I can do that. I can make that.
I want to talk about some things that people might take away from here about markets and getting into them, and your experience, because you did them earlier on in your career and came back to them. Was there a difference in how you approached setting up your booth or presenting yourself for like your more modern career in this whole market season or market world?
Yeah. So at first I was very budget friendly, and I didn't, I was young and didn't have any money, and so I would buy, and I still do this. I think this is smart, like buying things at the thrift store, and just being like, oh, like I found like pegboard at the thrift store, and then went to Lowe's and got hooks, and then hung my jewelry on it, and just put them on easels, and then that was it. But now I think of it and I'm like, oh, that wasn't a good setup. but it worked. It did the job.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. I just know that you really, so what I try to do is try to get like that height variation, because I want people to walk by and it's like there in their line of sight.
Yeah.
So my most recent thing was getting a giant dollhouse and putting guys in it.
Yeah. So that was that kind of next thing. We just had Jenny Fufu on at the beginning of the month with the same tip of like elevating your stuff instead of like laying it on a table, but just getting things elevated. And we have noticed when like we've put different things at eye level for people, like things get spotted better than when they're like sitting on the table or like sitting back a little bit lower kind of thing.
Well, they can spot it from further away too. It's that line of sight and they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, is that a frog? And like they like come
right
over.
The frog,
Because you only have so much real estate, a lot of times it's my 5-foot table. You do have to go up.
Yeah.
So that's part of it to get more in there.
Yeah, we are right now toying with because I guess when we do different shows, the setup, sometimes you might get a corner. You don't always know where you're going to be placed.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, oh, hey, we only have a 6-foot space for you, or you don't have a full 10x10. And so whenever we do a show, we like to see if we can get a 10x10 space. But sometimes when it's like slightly smaller, we're like, okay, how do we adapt our setup to go that direction? Our biggest thing is we have 7-foot grid walls that we attach to our easy ups, or we can angle them with feet that they have, so that gives us some elevation.
Yeah.
But what we make so many different things,
Yeah.
we run out of space too quickly.
Yeah.
Like,
we struggle. And we absolutely notice that when we have something that's like less prominent than the other things on display, like it just doesn't get noticed and doesn't sell as well because people aren't seeing it and finding it.
I remember seeing your display for the first time, but I'm one of those people. There's a certain type of person that's like,
real quick, Christy did step out. Juniper did wake up from her sleep. So we're getting her back down. Christy's probably going to jump back in and join us in just a moment. But we were in the middle of talking about our setup and bringing down the first time you saw our setup.
yeah.
Like, what did you think?
I thought it was good. And also, I was going to say, there's another type of customer that's the kind of person that thrifts almost, which is me, where I'm like, what's down there?
Looking
And
to
so,
the stuff, yeah.
So I was in like the corner on the bottom, like, do you have an XL? And you guys were like, no. What are you doing down there?
we never did that. But so for us, when it came to, we've done multiple different ways that we've approached it. Like, we didn't have the grid walls the first show. We had like some off the like Amazon like grids that connected together by and we just got zip tied them together and made it work. Again, in the same like budget, trying to like, we don't know how successful these shows are going to be for us in some of cases. Like, great, this show made $200. Like, if we spent $300 on displays, we're in the negative in that sense. So we had to like little by little, and by, I think it was it wasn't the first Craft Lake, it was, I think maybe 6-7 months after like getting in shows, like we got grid walls. And we're like, okay, this is like, we got some grid walls, this is gonna work. Like, then I had to figure out how we're gonna carry them in the car and everything.
That's exactly where my brain was. I was like, then how do you have to haul it?
Well, that turns into a whole nother thing, because so we had a system, everything worked. I got totes that all were uniform. They fit into the car. We have a cargo basket that goes in the back, fits totes there.
Yep.
And then we had Juniper. And and now there's a car seat, there's a wagon, there's
and that's why we take 2 cars to craft shows now.
We are playing that same game right now for certain shows where I will go and I will set up solo. I will get everything situated. Christy will have Juniper's morning nap or whatever it is, depending on time wise, and they will come. And then if we have a late show, they'll come for usually we'll have dinner together at the show. We'll get some cool food that's there from a food truck or an artisan food vendor, something of the nature. And then Christy leaves. I do teardown so that she can get Juniper to sleep for the evening and try to keep the schedule as normal as possible, kind of thing.
We're almost doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It depends how many hours the market is.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like a 4 or 5 hour, like, we'll just all hang out and we'll take 2 cars, but we still bring 2. So my husband and my son have the option to just go.
Okay.
If he's just not tolerating it or something. And then if it's a long show, I'll be like, let's all go, and then you guys leave after lunch, or you guys come at lunch and we'll have lunch together, and then you leave. And
we try to accommodate each other with everything that we're doing in that sense. The only time we've had a few shows that are the drive doesn't make sense for us to take 2 cars. That's the biggest hurdle we come across. So this past year we pick and chose a few shows that we were going to do because they were more local to us and easier to get to and made more sense for us. I do miss, we were doing Ogden's Farmer Market last year. And I was like, I do miss that like group that were out there, but it was one of those like it's a 45-minute drive for us in the morning at 5:30 in the morning to get there, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to wake the kid up that early and have to pack her up and everything and get on the road, and then
It's not fun anymore if the baby's mad.
yeah, and so it is one of those, hey, we are responsible for another life
Yeah.
that we have to make sure that they are just having as much fun as we are in that same situation.
Yeah.
And so we try to accommodate any way we can. So it'll be interesting for us in the next couple years because your son is 5. So like the first couple years you had all of his medical stuff that kind of kept
and
you
it
from
was COVID too,
Yeah. Oh,
so
and-
we weren't doing anything.
So right now we're very lucky. We're getting her exposed to a lot of people, and a lot of our friends at shows have met her, and
Yeah.
she's a very easy baby, I
She's
would
gonna
say
be
so far.
maybe she'll just be a market kid.
Maybe and maybe she'll get the entrepreneur like bug and like start trying to make her own stuff and selling and things like
I've
that.
seen that actually. The person that's doing Craft Sabbath right now, their child Molly, I remember them running around in
At
like
shows.
2010 as a child.
Yeah,
And now they're running a craft show with their mom.
that's cool.
And they were at the Halloween market at Copperhide Vintage.
Okay, yeah. So, one of my favorite things about DIY Fest is the kids corner or the kids tent, or I forget what they call it, but
Yeah. Kid
because-
Row.
Kid Row, thank you. That's but there is so many talented kids, and getting them exposed in this art world and building the confidence of them at such a young age, I think is super awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to force anything on our child or anything in that sense.
Heavily
But
influenced. though.
hopefully she has a similar like bug that we have and wants to pursue stuff like that.
I don't know that you can have creative parents and not come out
Creative. I mean, maybe she might be a math person. I don't know.
I was always like, man, I'm gonna get like a soccer kid just because we're like this.
Well,
Like-
see, like now I'm gonna push back because I was a soccer kid. I want her to be. So the funny part. So we have tickets to Real every year, and so Christy was pregnant with her and could feel the like her kicking when the drums were going off at the thing. And now we take her to the games with us, and she is lively when the Real chant comes on, and so we are super stoked and hopefully she becomes a soccer kid.
to tell
like-
myself, I kind of do have a soccer kid, but that's not. I mean, as a stereotype,
Yeah,
like,
that's fair. Okay.
not just interested or liking sports, but
So Chrissy's back with us, joining us again.
Yes.
We got Juniper down. And also, if you guys might hear in the back, I'm going to do my best again to edit this out, but our new dog might be barking in the background if you haven't noticed or not. If you have,
We're making some noises, scratching.
So we'll keep that at a minimal. But we're trying to do our best here with our crazy family that we have here.
Yep. Thanks for bearing with us.
But back into the whole market world, you said it was a little scary for you coming back into the market world. What was that final like push that said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it?
I just wanted to do it again. I was had that longing, but also I wanted to make friends. I was like, I don't know anybody over here. I don't.
So what
And-
was? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no! And as like I said, I went to that show and I was like, this is them.
Yeah.
But how do I weasel my way in?
So I was going to ask, what was that reception like then at that first market that you did? How were you received? How did it go?
It was so well received, and now I have old pictures of it, and I was like, I had almost nothing. I was much slower then, and I thought I had a lot. But when you make things that are 1 or 2 inches long, you can have 100 of them, and you take up 3 feet. But it was really well received, and people were wanting to do trades, and they just kept coming up, and they would come up and be like, you're the one that has this, because they would show it to somebody else, and yeah, that's what I made my market friends that I have now started on that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go back even further to your first market. What was that like for you?
Terrible. I didn't know I had to bring shade. Was sitting in full sun on a sidewalk with a tiny card table, like not even like a 5-foot table, just a card
like
table.
Like
I
2x2
I
or
bought
the
it
3x3
off
or something?
KSL.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like totally busted, and I like painted it with yellow spray paint, and it was like warped, and I bought some fence slats or whatever, and like made a new top and painted it yellow, and then just laid everything flat on the table.
Yeah.
And but people pitied me and gave me an umbrella, and I was happy to make $40.
What got you to do that first show? What was that like? Because you didn't have the itch at that point.
Yeah.
You had there was a different, I guess, a different mentality at that point. Also, so like, where did the hey, I'm gonna go do a market come from in that show? Because what you're saying, that's 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I think I had seen it. Well, you first start trying to sell your stuff online. You know, you're like, oh, I can sell the things I make, and so you list it online, and there's not a lot of movement. And then I just saw this craft show existed, and I checked it out, and it actually someone that did my first tattoos was doing it. And like, so you know, you wander over, it's at a coffee shop, I'll get a coffee and walk around this thing, and then your interest is piqued, and so you're just like, how do you get into these? and someone tells you, and then you apply.
Yeah.
And I think from your first one it just snowballs, because I don't know if this happens to you, but other people that do markets, you're like, how did you hear about that market? I never heard of that market.
Yeah.
And then so like you start following the different markets.
Yep.
And every new friend you make is in different markets you never heard of. You told me one today that you're doing tomorrow, and I'm like, what is that? Well, there's apple cider? Like, what? That's so charming. I want to go to that.
So well, it was really crazy because how that one even came for us. It was, we got asked to do another show, which we don't even remember. Did they say where they found us from?
I don't remember if it was DIY Fest or another market that we did, but
they,
yeah,
like,
it was Marmalade Jam Fest.
Emailed us and said, hey, we have this thing called Jam Fest, and we're like, what is that? I'm
What
like,
is Jam
like
Fest?
they make jam, and they have bluegrass music.
Oh,
yeah.
I was totally went somewhere else in my head. I was like hip hop, or like,
yeah, no, exactly. But it's like literal jam.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have a jam contest and a pie contest, and then they have music and vendors, and yeah. So we were like, sure,
cool. let's try it out. And then like those people,
we live in Stars Hollow.
some days it feels like it.
And so then like we did that. It was a great show. Like we had a really good time.
Yeah.
Like the people there were super supportive, and we're like, we'll do this again. Like they're like, how'd it go for you? We're like, we love it. Like, you have us back next year. We'll be here like bright and early. Let's go, kind of thing. And so then like we got like 2 weeks later, we get an email from Cider Fest. Like we're like,
oh, we heard about you from Jam Fest. Come to our fest.
We're like,
okay.
oh, okay. Like it's
and you don't know how it works. Sometimes it's like the people that run it, I think they know each other, or
I
maybe
they have a list of the same
I
people.
also think other people just like scroll through participants
Yeah.
or something, and like
let's
reach out to
try
them
this
or
one and
whatever.
see how many people respond back, kind of thing. Yeah, like just cold calling. Like, here you go. We sent an email to 100 people and 20 people got back to us. Cool. Those suckers are gonna do our show.
some of them though are like, I'm not sure what they're doing, because someone reached out to me the day before yesterday and said they have a market tomorrow.
Oh,
And I was like,
that's
no.
not. Yeah. Thank you, but no. Yeah. I don't know. We've talked about this before, but it feels like there is so much opportunity here
Yeah.
for the entrepreneur spirit to go, and because I think any weekend you can find 20 different shows in different locations and different like avenues of like people that are like potentially might be your right crowd, or this might be the right crowd. But every weekend, even like if it felt like it started in like March and ends in fall. Now it just feels like it's year round.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's people are finding
And that's
ways.
recent.
Yeah, it is crazy how this year seems like every weekend you can pick a place to go and like you
Yeah.
will have a show if you really
There
want to put
used
that
to
much.
be like 2 shows.
Yeah.
And that was it. Unless you did like farmers market and stuff.
Mhm.
But now there's so many you can try. I stick to the ones that I know.
Yeah.
I'm not for every show.
Mhm.
And I've been in shows where I'm like, oh, I don't belong here. I don't have any church art. I'm sorry.
We've definitely been in a couple shows that we go, oh, we tried this one. We
Yeah.
tried. Like that's the reality.
It was a learning experience.
Yeah.
And like your neighbor is selling tumblers.
Nothing wrong with cool tumblers.
We
but-
like cups. There's a lot of you selling them.
Everybody needs a cup.
Well, again, this goes back to the whole conversation earlier where it's like, don't chase the trends.
Mhm.
I've seen the latest trend right now is hat bars.
Oh my gosh.
And like, have you seen those yet?
Maybe I'm not with the trends. I'm over here making frogs with butts. I don't know.
So what a lot of people are doing right now is they're buying imported patches from across the like ocean and everything, and then
And you
they
can
and then like the
build a
blank
hat.
you
hats.
build
Yeah.
a hat and you heat press them, and
You
so
can
they've
like
got
bedazzle it or
Yeah.
add fringe.
It's kind of.
and-
I've seen people do the heat press with T-shirts.
yeah, and so I've seen the dye sublimation and the DTF and vinyl transfers and stuff like that, but
yeah.
this is like the latest trend. But what
Okay.
I already am seeing, because I am constantly on the secondhand market looking for stuff, I am seeing those businesses starting to sell their supplies,
stuff.
and it's like
Mhm.
I did this, and then it's like, but it like everyone like at certain shows there might be 4 people doing that hat bar like
Yeah.
cool thing because it was a trend
Yeah.
on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and it's like
It's like the permanent jewelry. I mean, it's like there's always these trends that.
Yeah, I've seen the permanent jewelry
And it's like-
start to. Which the idea is cool if there was one person at the show.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's again the burnout.
Yeah.
It happens very quickly,
Mhm.
especially when you do a show that might cost you $200-300 to
Yeah.
be a vendor at, and you don't make that back,
Yeah.
and you go, oh, I this is not like, I want people to like, if they're gonna do this, like find the passion that you really have for what
Yeah.
you're doing and get after that.
Yeah.
Like, who cares if like you've had success on your first show? That's great, but like we've had people on here, their first show was not successful. They still kept going it because they were passionate about what they
Yeah.
were making, not about what they were trying to make monetary wise.
Yeah.
And
I think there's a specific. Utah has a side hustle culture, and there's a lot of popular things that fizzle out, and you see it all the
Yeah.
time
Mhm.
here.
yeah,
And even everyone's doing something, whether you're like, flipping furniture or dabbling in an MLM and
pallet auction.
Yeah. pallet auctions, and then yes, I've seen the little storefronts where you can dig through their stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how it is here. But I think to like not burn out and have longevity, you have to find like yourself in that. It
Yeah.
can't just be what's trendy.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I also attribute that to age. Doing it when you're 23 is very different than doing it at 39.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And my 30s were really finding who I was.
Yeah.
Because you just stop giving a shit.
Amen.
And you're like, this is it. This
Well,
is it.
Me and Christy will be together for 20 years now.
Mhm.
And we have done a lot together, but I don't know if when we were like 15 years ago, if we would have been doing this.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality, like doing markets, doing this stuff. I don't know if we would have known how to approach that.
Yeah.
And
Or had the maturity,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like
And so
the
I-
wherewithal.
we had Creating Paisley on here. She started at 15. I'm impressed. Like, and she did.
I love her, by the way.
Right?
She's got great
She
eyes.
fucking rocks
She-
it. Like, she rocks it.
Probably has parents, but I want to adopt her. She's like this little cutie patootie person that I feel I like want to go like this to her, like a Polly Pocket. And
She's adorable.
she might think that's weird, but I'm always like, hi.
Can confirm her dad did come with her when we
Oh,
recorded her
she has
podcast
a dad.
episode. So, I'm assuming his mom too. I don't know.
Her
but...
dad didn't want her to go to a strange house alone. She has loving parents.
I though commend the young entrepreneurship
Yeah.
but the best part about what she is doing is she's found her voice.
And her style. And yeah.
And that is what's going to keep her
Yeah.
going.
Mhm.
Where like the young 15-year-old entrepreneur who's like, I'm going to be a pallet auction person and I'm going to
Yeah.
spend $500, they burn out. And like if you don't have that like drive or that passion for that thing,
Yeah.
you burn out. But
Or it becomes the thing where they just continue to chase the trends.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's like,
it's
oh,
like-
okay, well now I'm doing Pokemon cards, and okay, well now I'm doing,
Yeah, all
whatever.
the-
it
and
may be.
so
They're like, I'm a Renaissance man.
but I like that is I again, this goes back to every guest we've had on here is the passion comes through very much. I want to make sure the people can see what you're doing and check out everything you're doing. So I want, what is the social handle that they can find more information about Wednesday Ann and what Melissa is doing for
My
Wednesday Ann?
most active place is just Instagram.
Okay.
It's Wednesday.Ann. I do have an Etsy and I leave it on vacation because I don't like to mail things.
Fair.
If I'm being honest, I have Lady HD, undiagnosed, but it's there, and your package will sit in my car. I need to have a deadline, like a market,
Yeah.
where I will work all the way up to it full steam ahead. But if I'm supposed to mail you something, I don't know about that.
May
I
or may
do
happen.
mail things at Christmas time because Christmas is a deadline. So I can stick to that.
You can get that
There you go.
deadline. I want one last question, and like if you have something in mind, like, and you want to share it, fine. If you're keeping it secret for a big reveal,
I
like,
don't have any secrets.
is there future creations that have not been made yet that you are planning to make?
I am not a person who is short on ideas. I have so many ideas and so little time. So besides just pumping out, like the
regulars.
regulars, the heavy hitters like frogs and shrimp, I would like to get into doing series of things.
Okay.
I would really like to be like, here is a series of, inspired by cartoons from the 80s. Here's a series inspired by the Muppets.
Oh, no,
Here's-
no, not
so,
the
like,
Muppets. I'm gonna
here's-
spend all my money on your stuff.
I know.
Don't
And-
do the Muppets. I'm gonna be
We now
broke.
need
I
a Wednesday
really
and
just want to
shelf.
make their little heads
Yeah.
with their big eyes. So that's something that I want to get into, and I just have to find the time.
So awesome. Thank you for being here on the show. Guys, go check out what Wednesday Ann is doing. Melissa is a very talented artist local to the Salt Lake area. That's going to probably be our episode, I think. And yeah,
All
sure.
right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
We'll see
I'm
you guys
sleeping over.
Okay.
We'll see you guys
Jam
on the next
party.
episode. Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment.
Bye.
Bye.